Hello, I am Wanderer001, and this is actually a revisit of Pocket Casts. It is a pod catcher, pod feed, podcast player that you can get for Android and iOS. I'm revisiting this app because recently it has had a major redesign, and that's kind of what I'm finding myself doing lately, is going back to some of my older apps that I really use and really enjoy, but have been upgraded. And that's one of the reasons I tend to do hardware instead of software. Software has a lot of updates, hardware not so much. But coming back to Pocket Cast, this is my go-to podcast player, period. I've used some free ones in the past, but this one is one that I have kept the longest. I even paid for it because, well, you do have to pay for this. There is a $3.99 charge for this in the Google Play Store, so round that up to $4, but I assure you it is well worth your money. So when we first launched the app, this is what we see. This is a kind of grid format of all of the podcasts that I am currently subscribed to. Again, there are more, you just have to scroll down. So from the main page here, what you can do is you can come up here and press the magnifying glass to run a search. So you could search for a podcast directly from this page if you wanted to. Hamburger button up here will allow you to change the way this front page looks. So badges, you have off, all unfinished, and only on latest episodes. So what the badges are, if you look in the corner of some of my podcasts, you will notice that there are numbers. And those numbers indicate the amount of new or unlistened to podcasts. Layout, you saw the grid format, and in the background, as I click this, you will see that the layout can change further. So again, this is one of the reasons I like this app. It's super customizable. Same thing with sorting. You can sort by podcast name, episode release date, and drag and drop. I currently have it on drag and drop. And the last bit there is share podcast. So again, if you want to share your favorite podcast with your friends, that's how you would do it. Now, the redesign mainly happens with the fact that it used to be that there was a sidebar that you would have to pull to access a lot of these features. Right now, you'll notice that there's no sidebar and they're kind of all listed here at the bottom. I do have a podcast currently in play, which is why I have this bar down here. Now, this is the mini bar that you see within the podcast app itself. This is your 30-second rewind, play, fast forward, and then this is your cue. I'll be getting into that a little later. And then you have a little art for the particular episode you're listening to. I'm going to start it really quickly just to show you that in your notification shade, you also get a mini player that has the art as well. And that's a really nice feature. Moving on the bottom, filters. When you're first brought into filters, if you don't have this set to go into a specific one, you are greeted with this: new releases, in progress, and starred. These are, think of them as quick links to get to specific areas of the podcast app. Now, you can add your own filter, so you can do colors, you can do these icons here, and this will allow you to set up your own little quick start to a specific area. So if I wanted to, here is the one podcast that I'm currently playing right now. There's a lot of information going on here now, such as this is how you can play it. This shows how far into the episode it is. You've got your episode title. You've got this blue thing here, which now means it's part of the queued list. And then you have this one, which is downloaded to the phone itself. We're going to jump into new releases, just to kind of give you an idea that it does do this grid format. You can see several different icon types over here. Like I said before, this one is your play and shows you how far it is into the episode. This one also shows you if it has been downloaded to the phone, this little green check mark, as we talked about before. This one here means it has not been downloaded to the phone, because you don't necessarily have to download these to the phone in order to listen to them. You can stream them. That is an option that's left to you. Now, I'm going to actually click on the queue so you can kind of see what that looks like. When you either open up the podcast that you're listening to or select the queue, you are brought to a similar page. So either I'm looking at the episode, and if I click on the episode art, it will show me the name. I can move it, I can mark it, I can go to podcast. And if I go to that, it will bring me into just the information for that podcast. And from here, you can actually do some things just on the individual podcast level. So here you can see checkmark means automatically downloads. I can go into settings, which will allow me to be notified when a new podcast shows up, automatically download it. This particular episode, I do not automatically download to my phone. It can be added to Up Next automatically. It will also allow you to auto archive the episode. Playback effect, meaning if I wanted to, just for this particular podcast, now you could do this across the platform, but just for this particular podcast, you can select your speed, you can select your trim silence, and you can select your boost volume, which is really, really good. And then again, we're gonna turn that off just so I don't forget. You have your skip, so you can set that for how far into the episode you want it to skip when it first starts the episode, and then filters, and last but not least, unsubscribe. You also do have a notification area right there, and again, the channel art that's just listed right there. It's really cool. And then again, clicking on it one more time within the podcast episode will allow you to see information and liner notes if they give you for that particular episode. But we're gonna go back to our new releases and our queue, because from here, you have options that you can do across the entire app, which is right here. You can see setting a variable speed. I currently have it set for 1.7. If I want to, I can increase that to 1.8. It will trim silence, meaning if something like that happens, you can cut that out so that you don't have to put up with awkward pauses in your audio. You can also volume boost just like you could across the entire system. Going back, this will allow you to sleep. So if you listen to podcasts to go to bed, this will allow you to turn off the podcast after a certain amount of time has passed. You can also favorite. In this case, this podcast, if I wanted to, I could favorite it. And then in that filters area, I would be able to go in and just see my favorited podcast. And again, you can share this podcast. And there are your liner notes from the player area. One of the more controversial changes that was made to Pocket Cast was the ordering of shows. One of the big things that the old version could do was queuing, and queuing in your own special way. Well, they did some things that people weren't happy, including myself. They rectified it, so it's not as big of an issue right now. But what I'm going to show you is if you are going to queue an item, so like I said, this little blue icon indicates that something is in the queue. So if I wanted to go down here and queue All About Android, if I drag it partially to the right, I have these options, which will allow me to add in sequence where I want it in my queue. Just swiping it to the right will add it to the queue, and it will automatically sort that by date of podcast, not your specific ordering. So that will add it to the item above. This will add it below the item. So that is a useful feature. Also, swiping, I'm gonna swipe that one. Swiping in the opposite direction will actually allow you to delete that particular item from your queue or your phone if it's on your phone. Those are one of the big things that people were complaining about, and I will admit, I'm happy that they fixed it because, yeah, it was a royal mess. So again, hamburger button in the corner will allow you to play all, download all, filter settings, and delete filters if you wanted. Discovery, just that. You can go through trending, you can go through whatever ground it is, popular in the United States. It's just a discovery area. It allows you to find other podcasts. And again, that search area, Discovery's got the same thing right up there. Now, profile has some sensitive information, mainly the account that's up top. It will also show you the number of podcasts, the days listened, and the days saved based on things that you've done, skipping, trimming, things of that nature. So, all stats allows you to see all of your stats. So here you can see, just like I did in my old video, it shows you how much time I've saved by skipping stuff. Also download stars and listening history. So if you ever wanted to know all the stuff that you listen to, you now have listening history. In the corner there's also a sprocket, which will allow you to get into more options. I'm not showing it because, again, my account name is right there and don't want that. So here is where you can customize further how the app functions. Now, this is dark mode. It does have a light mode, which is found in the functions. Now, this area has not changed too much, so I'm not actually going to cover that. If you want to see the particulars of that area, I'm going to link in the corner my previous video for Pocket Cast, which will also show you the web interface, which at an extra fee will allow you to sync your podcast between your phone and the web and watch them at your leisure. Now, again, I said I went back to cover this because there were a lot of things that they changed, mainly that queuing area. Realistically, after I got used to it, I don't mind it as much as I did when it first came out. And that's how it is for most things. But I'm very happy that the developer of this listened to the criticism about the queue area. A lot of people, myself included, specifically got this app because we wanted to be able to control our feed and how we listen to episodes. I don't necessarily want to listen to them sequentially as they come out. I have a specific order that I wanted, and I'm happy that they fixed that. And because of that, I still highly recommend Pocket Cast as a excellent podcast catcher, player, however you want to word that. So, I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.